Welcome to the Lost Vet podcast, where we are helping you to get back to your passion and purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Melodie Chan, and in today's episode of Destination People, I'm asking Rob for some help. I'm asking him to help me better understand how focusing on people instead of tasks can actually help our veterinary businesses and clinics be more successful. Have a listen. Rob, in some of our previous conversations, just one-on-one, you often catch me out with my own language where I'll say, well, how do I get my team or this person to do this thing that I need them to do? And you'll often sort of stop me and get me to reflect of, remember, you can't get people to do things or change for you. And so that sort of leads me to this idea that I thought would be great to just chat about is people versus tasks, and how you view that as a different way to look at how to get to the outcomes that you want for a business. So let's just start there. Sort of what's your general overview, I guess, of what it means to focus on a task versus what it means to focus on people?
Well, your intro makes me sound like the most annoying friend that a person could have. So thank you for doing that. That's the way you correct my language. But it's like, oh, great. I must be great fun to hang out with. Bring Rob to the party. Okay, well, forgive me for any time that's been done annoyingly, because I'm sure it has been done
Always
badly.
good. Always good.
So yeah, this is a really interesting subject. So I think when we run our coaching programs, I think this is, I suppose, a central theme that keeps coming up, right? Because if you think about the way we all run, including my own, kind of run our organizations, our businesses, the tasks are at the top of the pile, right? The work is king, as it were. Like the work is the thing right in front of us. There's that immediate, pressurized, deadline bound thing, right? We've got to get this filed away. We've got to get the room ready. We got to get this patient's information loaded up. We got to get, and it's just work, task. And I think what happens culturally, or what I've observed, is that becomes like the thing, right? So all we talk about in our meetings, in our chats, our stand-up meetings, one-to-ones, whatever, is the work. What about this piece of work? What about that piece of work? How are we getting this done? How are we getting that done? And it leads to a very kind of circular type of thinking. It's like, as long as the work's being done, it's like, great, we did our job today. We did all of the work.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about tasks, I almost feel like they're this kind of horrible overlord in a work environment where, like, they are they're bludgeoning us with their urgency and the volume of them, where it's just, oh my god, so much work to do and so many tasks to do, and it's like and we all feel like there's not enough time in the day to do all of the things, and then it's like, well, tomorrow we'll do all of the things. I think what it leads to is fundamentally is a disconnect in a group of people where the work is this kind of ever-present, overbearing thing, which is ruining the culture of the business, because we're obsessed about keeping this work thing going. And we've talked about it before, but this idea of performance punishment, what you often see is when someone is really good at doing the work, their reward, more work. And it's like, how do we even when we're progressing, we're still a slave to the work, right? We still have to get everything done. So when we talk about the kind of the tasks versus people debate, I think, or discussion, it's really about, well, where is your focus? And more importantly, who's actually doing the work, right? So the work seems to have overtaken the value of the person doing it, right? And it's a kind of a conceptual idea, but when all we're talking about is the work and we're never talking about the person, I think that's when we end up with mental health issues. I think when we end up with burnout, we end up with saying yes all the time because the work has to be served, the work has to be done, the tasks have to be completed. So we end up with this kind of weird relationship with the work where we're almost like serving the work. And the work is as long as everyone's happy if the work gets done, right? Our job list, our things to do. How do I manage my time? And it's like, oh my God, what about managing yourself? What about focusing on people? What about upskilling them, developing them, supporting them, encouraging them, identifying things in an evidence-based way that they've done well? so that they can feel good about the work that they do. And then guess what happens? It's crazy, but the work happens when people feel good about themselves. But when the work is the only thing that anyone ever talks about, people feel disenfranchised from the place that they're at, because it's not about them anymore. They're like an observer, they're a participant in this whole madness of us all trying to keep all the work going. So for me, when I talk about this, it's really trying to get people to think about the people that are actually doing the work as being the priority, and that the work will be best served by the people being in a good place.
And so how do you check in on that in the sense that, tasks are, I think part of the appeal of tasks is when it's been done. Like it's either done or it's not done. It's this binary
Yeah.
black or white. And especially when you think about veterinarians, I mean, we love it in that world of black and white when there's an answer, there's a finality to it.
Yeah.
I think that harder piece is that people piece, because I mean, as you're sort of talking about it, I'm thinking about it. It's much more nuanced and great because it's a continuum. It's not an end goalpost. So how do what are some things that a practice can do, a clinic could do to humanize the work, as you put it?
Well, it's a really good question. In a way, it's almost like a futile kind of focus, and in a way, for me, it's like you gotta nearly like stop it. You've got to nearly just give up on tasks being the priority because they feel good. That's like saying, smoking feels good because it's habitual and, we're addicted to it. We're addicted to work. We're addicted to this ticking off things and, oh, I've achieved today, right? And it's, it takes less emotional strain or engagement or effort to achieve a list of arbitrary tasks than it does to invest in a person, because we don't always get along with people. We don't always find people easy to work with. We don't always agree with people. So work is easier to focus on because it almost takes away the people element of it. So I get there's a bit of sanctuary in that, isn't there? Which I think is what you're saying. It's like, oh well, we just get the work done, everyone's going to be happy. But the problem is there's just never an end to it. So if you think about those two things as ideas, right? And I'm developing this thought as I'm saying it, but from what you've said there, you've got something which is never ending and keeps growing
Mm-hmm.
as a stress, which is the work, or as people, their development is never ending and keeps growing, and it's reward. You get better engagement, you get better outputs, you get greater volume of work done, you get more longevity, you get better sales results, you get better. Where all the statistics point to it. Like when you invest in people, you receive the benefit back in the task end of things, right? So that's a payoff. When you invest in people, you invest in that growth of the person, which is exponential, and tasks can feel like that too. You actually get something back. But when you're investing in work, okay, you get the work back, right? So you get the work is done and the box is ticked and everyone feels satisfied with themselves. But there's a cost, there's not a reward, there's a cost in the people, because people get fed up with it and they get burnt out and tired and stressed. So I'm not sure that's a perfect metaphor for it, but I think one has a direct relationship to both things that we want, right? The work getting done and people to be happy. Whereas the other only has a relationship to productivity, which is about how much work can we do. And the thing is as well, if I can continue that thought another step further, is that what I've seen with a lot of veterinarians, for example, is they don't think anyone can do the work as well as them. So this is not about an evenly spread equivalence across the whole business where everyone is doing their fair share. What tends to happen is people in positions of responsibility or authority take a disproportionate sense of ownership of all the tasks. And if I've heard the statement once, I've heard it a million times in veterinary practices, it's quicker to do it myself. So what happens is it's not even evenly spread. It's just this thing. It just becomes this thing where we got to get the work done. and at all costs. So if that means staying late, if that means not going and seeing my family, if that means not taking a lunch break, that means, I've heard it, literally not going to the toilet and feeling physical stress, like carrying bottles of water in the Jeep, empty bottles, sorry, to be able to go to the bathroom because of the time pressure and stress they feel under. That, if that's the consequence of tasks being a priority, I don't get it. Now I've been in it. I'm not to that extreme, perhaps, but I've definitely been in it, and step at times back into it. But when it's just the main thing, when it's just tasks and productivity, there's not a mutually beneficial situation with that. Whereas with people, you get both. You get the work, but you also get this incredible benefit of people that are happy or happier because they feel engaged with the whole process.
Yeah, as we're talking, I guess one example then that I can sort of hypothetically make up to maybe illustrate this point then is you can have a clinic that say wants to increase the number of surgeries that they can get done in a morning. And I can see if that's the task you're focusing on, and say you're trying to get two more surgeries done in the same time and space. And so I'll put in air quotes, management decides to create a protocol to help expedite this, but without talking to the people, then they can implement this new structure or new protocol, and it's not getting done. So then they're adding more layers of complexity when maybe all they needed to do, or part of that process you have to remember to do, is ask the people on the floor, this is what we're thinking. As a team, can we come up with some creative ideas on how we could get this done to make sure you're not getting burnt out? And maybe there's uncovering of some roadblocks in place already, that are decreasing efficiency. I can think of, maybe in that surgical rotation, you've got a veterinarian that just doesn't like surgery. And,
Yeah,
I think, again, one of the principles I think is that's been coming more and more to the forefront is you don't have to be good at everything, nor do you actually have to like everything. And so allow the veterinarians that love surgery to be in the surgical suite, and allow that person to be more efficient and effective and, more satisfied with their day to day somewhere else. Or maybe there's something in the intake process that, the front end team has seen, oh, like if we just tweak this, and this, we could have better flow. Um,
yeah,
so, to me, that, as we had talked about it, because I think I'd always had this roadblock in my head of like, okay, but you have to get the work done, like regardless, right? As a business, you need to have the work done to generate that income, to have the cash flow, because we can't just be sort of that kumbaya, everybody comes in and it's just, like, what do you want to learn today, and just grow, right? You're still trying to run a business.
yeah.
But I think for me, I guess how I interpret it and how I would apply that is just make sure you're asking people for their input, that collaboration of how, not just how can we get this done, but just that check-in of how are you doing? How are you doing today? We changed this, or we have this new goal. How is that sitting? Um, I think one of the things that I heard in another podcast that I really loved was just one manager that was quite memorable to the person that was being interviewed had said the one thing his manager always asked him was, what can I do for you today to take away a roadblock and help make your job easier? That was always what he started with in his interactions. And just imagine what you could learn or do, and just build that bond of I'm here to help with your
Yeah.
team.
I think as well, I mean, that's a great point. Actually, a couple of points. I mean, on the front of the book, the Last Vet book, it literally says, find your way back to your passion and purpose through people, right? And it's not that you have to find your way back independently and separate from. It's through people, and that's the most rewarding part of your job. When my daughter was playing soccer there the other weekend, and there was some good feedback from her teammates, Oh my God, that's like times 1,000 compared to any tiresome pep talk I give her in the car on the way home. You know, it's like it means something when her defender says to her as the goalkeeper, "Well done," or "Great kick," or whatever. And that collaboration that you can get in a team when people are the focus, it's hugely powerful. It's hugely
Mhm.
powerful. So it's really it's not at the expense of the work. It's just the most efficient way to get the work done.
This has been great because I think we've had similar discussions before. For some reason, I tend to slide back to my checklist because I love checklists. I'm a checklist person. So tasks again are sort of like almost my security blanket, but just taking that moment and reframe and making sure you're asking for help, you're pulling on people around you and soliciting that feedback. This has been great. Thank you so much, Rob.
You're welcome. Thanks. I enjoyed it.
Okay, I think I finally have this one more crystallized in my head after a few tries of Rob and I talking about this in various conversations in the past. And just for the record, he's a great friend. He doesn't nag or correct things all the time. As we talk about focusing on people rather than the work, I think the trap we can fall into is just succumbing to the, as he referred to it, the horrible overlord that is the tasks, and just really focusing on getting all of the things done day to day and the checklist, and then tomorrow the new checklist starts again. I think what helped me in my own mind is just thinking about, we know we have to get these things done, but it's, how do you humanize the work? How do you actually incorporate the people into the achieving of the tasks and the objectives? And I think for me, it's really just making sure you're taking that extra time to ask. And that might be asking for input. It may be asking for help if you're one of those that feels like if you need something done, you're the only one that can do it. I think the other piece for me is just making sure you're celebrating as a team the little things and the big things. I think all too often we get so bogged down and it's almost this badge of honor of how busy we are, right? That busy work that we can be doing day in, day out. And, we really should just be celebrating somebody was able to pitch in and actually get somebody off work early 10 minutes so they can go pick up their kids and actually be on time for soccer practice, for once, because we've actually figured out a new system in the clinic to help people also be fulfilled in what they're doing day to day. So hopefully that helps you reframe how you're maybe approaching that day to day of getting things done, because we still have to get these objectives and tasks accomplished as a business, but making sure that we're thinking about developing people and thinking about how we can be supporting these people that are ultimately helping us to achieve that day to day success. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I certainly did. Thanks for listening. Until next time.